All right. Welcome, everyone, to our deep dive into the 2024 JavaScript Rising Stars report. If you want to know what's trending in the JavaScript world, you're definitely in the right place. This report, it tracks those, fastest growing projects over on GitHub, gives us a kind of preview of what's hot and what's, well, not.
Yeah, but it's more than just a popularity contest, though, right? I mean, if we really dig into these rising stars, we can figure out why everyone's so excited about them.
Yeah.
Spot those trends that are like just starting to pop up, and maybe even get a little sneak peek at what the future of JavaScript might hold.
Totally. So instead of just reading off a list, we're going to break down the coolest stuff. We'll, connect the dots between tools that seem totally different and even get some expert opinions from the folks who are shaping the JavaScript world. Ready to jump in?
Absolutely. Let's do it.
Okay, first up, let's talk about the projects that totally stole a show in 2024. And guess what? Our reigning champ is back for a second win.
Oh, yeah. Chattanooga is holding on to that top spot. And for good reason, too. This project gives you super well-designed components, accessible, customizable, basically ready to copy and paste right into your apps. It's almost like having this, world-class design system just, right there at your fingertips.
It's kind of like the difference between renting some stylish apartment and actually owning your dream home, right? With Chattanooga, you're not stuck with someone else's design choices. You own the code. So you can change it up, customize it, really make it yours.
And that ownership, it changes everything. I mean, you're not depending on some third-party provider, right? You've got total control over how your design system grows, how you maintain it. It's a huge win when you think about how stable your project will be in the long run.
Totally. And the coolest thing is Chattanooga keeps getting even better. This year, they added a bunch of really awesome features like charts, themes, blocks, and even more ready-to-use components. And their CLI, it's like a Swiss Army knife for, managing your components.
Yeah.
Super powerful and flexible.
It's fascinating. Chattanooga's success is part of this, bigger trend. We're seeing all these tools popping up like v0.dev that build on Chattanooga. They help you generate these really complex components. It's all about making this level of design, really good design and code, easy for everyone to get no matter how experienced they are.
I love that. It's making good design and code accessible to everyone, right? And speaking of pushing the limits, this report had some really wild stuff in it, like Pidgeolite, a fully functional Postgres database running in your browser.
Oh, yeah, that one really caught my attention. It makes you rethink what browsers can actually do, And then there's WebVM, basically a virtual machine right in your browser window. The possibilities for web development are huge.
Yeah, it's incredible how those lines between traditional web apps and desktop apps are getting so blurry now, right? Makes you wonder what's next.
No kidding. But before we get too far into the future, let's come back to the present, huh? Let's look at what's happening with front-end frameworks. This year, the top spot went to a bit of an underdog, HTMX.
Yeah, HTMX taking the lead was a surprise. And it's not your typical JavaScript framework either. It's less about building these massive JavaScript applications and more about extending HTML so it can handle the interactivity itself. Some people even say it's a library, but it's really, blurring the lines.
Totally. It's great for when you want to add a little bit of interactivity to a static site, or for building apps where, the server's the one in control. And fun fact, the Rising Stars website, it's built with Astro, and guess what? They use HTMX.
Huh. That's awesome. It's proving that it works in the real world, not just in theory. But HTMX wasn't the only framework shaking things up in 2024. We finally got React version 19 after 3 years. And it definitely signals a shift to a more framework-first way of thinking.
React 19 is interesting. It's trying to find a balance. On one hand, it keeps that flexibility developers love, that core library stuff. But on the other hand, it's got these new features, more structured ways of doing things to make building those really complex applications easier.
Yeah, it's like React is saying, hey, sometimes you need a little help. A little more structure, to tackle those big projects.
Right. And this actually brings up a pretty interesting debate that the creator of Solid started this year. He wrote this article, Why Web Components Are Not the Future. It got a lot of people talking online.
Oh, yeah, I remember that. Pretty hard take. Some people agreed with him, saying web components haven't really lived up to all the hype. Others, though, defended them, pointing out their strengths and, their potential.
It really comes down to what the developer wants, doesn't it? It's all about finding the right tools, the right ways of doing things that work for you and help you be the most productive.
For sure. And speaking of developer happiness, we gotta give a shout out to Svelte. Their version 5 was huge, introducing a totally new way to manage reactivity runes. And Svelte always scores super high in those, developer satisfaction surveys, which says a lot.
All right, let's go back to the React world for a sec. We talked about Shag Nui and its revolutionary approach to component design, right? Well, another star this year was Magic UI. This newcomer is all about bringing that same copy and paste ease to animations and visual effects.
It's like they took the Shakamui idea and applied it to making our apps prettier and more fun, more engaging, and it's open source.
Yeah.
Which is fantastic. It really helps push innovation and get the community involved.
Of course, we can't forget Next.js, still a powerhouse in the React world. They've totally embraced how React is evolving, adding support for version 19 and cool new features like server actions.
We actually got to chat with Robin Wieruch, a freelance full-stack developer, and he had some really interesting thoughts about what's going on with React these days. He said it's a bit of a paradox. React's getting more, but also less opinionated all at the same time.
There's a really interesting observation, Ray. React's kind of turning into this specification for frameworks while still keeping that flexibility that developers need.
And Robin was really excited about React 19's potential as a, full stack framework. Definitely something to think about, especially since more and more frameworks are going full stack these days.
Okay, let's jump over to the Vue side of things now. Nuxt is still the top Vue framework. They're focused on stability and have some helpful new modules, like Nuxt fonts and Nuxt scripts.
And congrats to PrimeView for snagging that second spot overall. It's a UI library that works great with Tailwind CSS, but you don't have to use Tailwind if you don't want to. Gives developers who aren't all in on Tailwind a lot of flexibility.
For sure. And both SlideEv for interactive presentations and VitePress for those high-performance static sites are still doing really well in the Vue world.
We got the chance to talk to Daniel Rowe. He's the Nuxt core team lead, and he shared some great insights about how vibrant the Vue ecosystem is right now.
Yeah, he mentioned all the active development happening in VueCur itself, how well UI libraries like PrimeView are doing, and all the promising new features that are coming soon.
One thing Daniel specifically mentioned was this trend of porting popular React libraries over to Vue, thanks to Tailwind CSS being, cross-framework compatible. It's actually getting a lot easier. We're seeing this with projects like Shadson Vue and Radix Vue, basically Vue versions of their React originals.
It really shows how much power there is in open source collaboration, right? Everyone wants to share those innovative solutions across all the different frameworks, and that benefits everyone in the end.
Okay, let's switch gears again and head to the back-end and full-stack world. We've talked about how awesome Payload and Next.js are, but there's a new player we need to talk about, Ono. This web server has the potential to really shake things up. It might even replace good old express.js.
Oh yeah, Ono is all about speed and efficiency. It's built to run on multiple JavaScript runtimes, like node.js, Dino, Bun, even serverless environments.
Yeah.
And it's tiny, which is always a plus.
Yeah. And for those of you who are building those, heavy-duty enterprise-grade apps, Nest.js is still a great choice. It really embraces TypeScript and gives you this mature, well-structured framework to handle all that complicated back-end logic. But let's be honest, the really exciting stuff is happening in the world of tooling.
Definitely. We've seen Biome come up as this faster alternative to Prettier and ESLint. It's getting a lot of attention really quickly with awesome compatibility and a lot of love from the community.
And remember, Bun, that all-in-one JavaScript toolchain that's supposed to make our lives easier, it's still going strong, getting better and better at working with all their existing tools, like Node.js, NPM, and Jest.
And then there's Vite, still the most loved and used tooling in the JavaScript world. With that new Void Zero company, totally dedicated to making Vite even better, we can expect some pretty amazing innovations down the road.
It's really inspiring to see how much innovation is being driven by making things faster and easier to use. We've also got projects like Oxy, which uses the speed of Rust for JavaScript tooling, and RSpec, a Rust-based bundler that works with Webpack. They're both pushing the limits of what's possible.
We actually got to chat with Sebastian Lorber, the guy behind This Week in React and the lead maintainer of Docusaurus, and he gave us his expert take on this trend. He's really excited about projects like Rolldown, a fast bundler that works with Rollup, and TurboPack, Next.js's own incremental bundler. Both are highly anticipated.
And here's some news that'll make a lot of developers happy. TypeScript support in Node.js 23 is finally here, and it's not experimental anymore.
That's huge for TypeScript. It shows how important it's becoming and how it's really getting integrated into the core JavaScript world.
Okay, before we move on to mobile development and state management, let's just take a minute to let all this sink in, That was a whirlwind tour of some of the most exciting stuff happening in the JavaScript world.
We've covered a lot, But there's still so much more to talk about. Take a moment to process everything, and then get ready for part 2, where we're going to dig deeper into mobile development, state management, and the big picture trends that are shaping the future of JavaScript. Stay tuned.
Welcome back to our deep dive into the 2024 JavaScript Rising Stars report. Ready to keep exploring the trends shaping the JavaScript landscape?
Oh, absolutely. In part 1, we got a taste of all the hottest projects. Now let's zoom out a bit, look at the big picture, What really stood out to you in this year's report? Any big themes?
One thing that really struck me was just how fast everything is moving. It seems like every year, the JavaScript world explodes with new tools and frameworks and ideas. It's exciting, but it can be kind of overwhelming too, right?
It's true. Sometimes it feels like drinking from a fire hose.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that energy, that constant change, it's a good thing. It means we're always learning, always improving our skills, and the possibilities for what we can build are endless. Yeah, totally agree. It definitely keeps things interesting. And this year's report highlighted some key areas where that innovation is really pushing the limits, like universal app development, for example. The idea of writing code once and having it work seamlessly across web, mobile, even desktop.
That's a huge trend. Streamlining workflows, creating more consistent experiences for users no matter what device they're on.
Exactly. And we're seeing this trend play out in the React Native world, especially. Projects like Expo and React Native Reusables are really leading the way.
It's so cool to see that write once, run anywhere idea gaining traction. And it's not just about reusing code either. We're seeing design principles and UI patterns becoming more unified across platforms too. The popularity of component libraries like, Shadnui and its counterparts in other ecosystems shows that developers want those unified design systems that work everywhere.
Yeah, you're right. That focus on design consistency is really important these days. Users are interacting with so many digital products now. Their expectations for usability and how things look are super high.
Mm-hmm.
Developers need to keep up, and those well-designed component libraries are becoming essential tools.
Absolutely. Another theme that jumped out at me was this relentless focus on performance optimization. Faster bundlers like RSpec and roll down, using Rust for performance-critical tools like Oxc. It's clear that speed and efficiency are top priorities for developers.
It makes sense though, right? Web applications are getting more and more complex, and everyone wants those smooth, responsive experiences, even on devices that aren't so powerful. Performance optimization isn't just a nice bonus anymore, it's a necessity.
And we can't forget about developer experience, DX, as they call it. So many projects in the Rising Stars report, like Vite, Astro, and Bun, they all emphasize ease of use, intuitive APIs, streamlined workflows, all that. It's about making our lives easier so we can focus on building great software.
Totally. A good developer experience means we're more productive, less frustrated, and in the end, we build better software. It's a win-win for everyone.
Couldn't agree more. Okay, we can't talk about the future of JavaScript without talking about the big one, artificial intelligence. AI is already changing how we code. AI-powered IDEs like Cursor, code generation services like bolt.new and vo.dev, even tools that help us learn new concepts better. It's everywhere.
AI is probably the most transformative force in tech right now, and it's only going to have a bigger impact on JavaScript development.
It's exciting, but also a little scary, right? It makes you wonder, what will the JavaScript developer of the future even look like? Will we still be writing code ourselves, or will we mostly be working with AI tools that generate code for us?
That's a great question. It's hard to predict the future, but I think it'll probably be a mix of both. Developers will use AI to automate tasks, be more productive, and take on more complex challenges. But that deep understanding of JavaScript, the core concepts and principles, that'll always be essential.
So it's not about replacing developers with AI, it's about giving developers AI superpowers.
Exactly. Augmenting our abilities, pushing the boundaries of what we can do. And that means the skills we need to be successful JavaScript developers will change. On top of mastering the language itself, we'll need to know how to use those AI tools, how to integrate them into our work.
So for all the JavaScript developers out there listening, trying to navigate this ever-changing world, what does it all mean? What should they be focusing on?
Well, the most important thing is to keep learning. The JavaScript world never stops moving. So be curious, explore new tools and technologies, and be ready to adapt your skills. Don't be afraid to try new things.
I think it's also important to be picky. Don't just chase the latest hype. Take the time to figure out what you need, what your project needs, what your development style is. Before you jump into a new tool or framework, what works for one project might not work for another.
That's so important. And don't be afraid to experiment. That's the beauty of JavaScript. There's so many options, so much diversity. Try different tools, different approaches, see what clicks for you.
For sure. And remember, you don't have to figure it all out alone. The JavaScript community is huge and super supportive. Connect with other developers, share what you know, ask questions, learn from each other's experiences. It's all about collaboration, right?
Absolutely. We're all in this together. By working together, we can navigate this exciting, ever-changing landscape and keep pushing the limits of what's possible with JavaScript.
Speaking of pushing limits, in Part 3, we'll wrap up our exploration of the 2024 JavaScript Rising Stars report with some final thoughts and insights. We'll leave you with something to think about, something to spark your imagination, and get you excited for your next coding adventure.
See you there.
All right, welcome back for the final part of our deep dive into the 2024 JavaScript Rising Stars report. It's been quite a journey.
It really has. So many cool trends, so many innovative projects.
In Part 1, we checked out all the hottest projects. And in Part 2, we kind of zoomed out to see the big picture, the main themes coming out of this year's report. Now, as we wrap things up, let's think about what this all means for, the future of JavaScript.
Well, one thing's for sure, the JavaScript world isn't slowing down. If anything, it's speeding up, right?
Yeah, definitely. And this year's report gave us a sneak peek at what's driving all this change. What do you think are the biggest forces shaping the future of JavaScript?
Well, we talked about it before, but that constant push for more speed, better performance, that's huge. New JavaScript runtimes like Bun and Dino, using languages like Rust for tools where performance is critical, it's everywhere.
It's amazing how that need for speed and efficiency is affecting so much of how we develop in JavaScript. And it's not just about raw performance numbers either. Developers want tools and frameworks that make them more productive, that streamline their workflow.
Oh yeah, for sure. Developer experience, that DX, is becoming super important. Tools like Vite and Astro, they're perfect examples of that trend, making it easier to build those complex web apps without sacrificing performance or flexibility.
And of course, we can't forget about AI. It's already changing how we write code, how we automate things, how we learn. As AI gets even more advanced, it's going to play a bigger and bigger role in software development. It's exciting, but kind of scary too, right?
Yeah, it really is. We're in the middle of this huge tech revolution, and JavaScript is at the center of it.
Makes you wonder, what's next for us developers,
Right. What will the JavaScript developer of the future even look like? Will we even be writing code by hand anymore? Or will we just be using AI tools that generate code for us?
It's tough to say for sure, but I think it'll probably be a bit of both. Developers will definitely use AI to automate stuff, be more productive, and tackle those really complex problems. But at the same time, understanding the core of JavaScript, all those fundamental concepts and principles, that'll always be important. So it's not about AI replacing developers, it's about AI making developers even better.
Exactly. It's about giving us superpowers, pushing the limits of what's possible. And that means the skills we need to be successful JavaScript developers, they're going to evolve. We'll need to know how to use these AI tools, how to integrate them into our work, on top of mastering the language itself.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into the 2024 JavaScript Rising Stars report, I want to leave our listeners with this. Embrace the change. Be curious. Try new things. And never stop learning. The future of JavaScript is, it's wide open, and it's up to all of us to shape it.
Couldn't have said it better myself. The future's bright, and it's time to get coding.
We hope you enjoyed this deep dive. If you want more details on all the trends we talked about, check out the full 2024 JavaScript Rising Stars report. The link's in the show notes. Until next time, happy coding, everyone.